Let's see if we can find that Ben Shapiro Code Pink clip, which, by the way, I love Code Pink. I love Code Pink. Medea Benjamin, who is an anti-Zionist Jewish woman, she is amazing. That's why the Zionists hate her, because it just cracks their narrative. All of their, like, if you criticize Zionism, it's because you're anti-Semitic. It's like she really interrupts that narrative for them because she is a Jewish woman who is an anti-Zionist. And I love her because of her tenacity and her unwillingness to be bothered and give up. Like, she is always there. She's at the AIPAC dinners. She's at the Congress's door. She's in the hallway. She's interrupting their fundraisers. Like, she's amazing. She is can't stop, won't stop. I admire her commitment. She's great. I would love to interview her. Not that like I'm an interviewer, but it would be fun to talk to her. Yes. Okay, let's watch this. I think people do join her. I do think people join her. There are a lot of people. All right, we're going to watch this in a second. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that do join Medea and Code Pink, that are a part of Code Pink, that will protest, I think. Yes. Okay, let's watch this.
And you have continued to spew hate.
Khamas should not start a war on behalf of its citizens and then shoot its own citizens, and you stand for it. Makes you a disgrace.
The people of Palestine have been occupied for 75 years, and the blood is on the hands of every person in this Congress and every person who watches your propaganda of hate, white supremacy, and racism. You have been poisoning the American public for them to also be complicit in what is going on in Palestine. Shame on you and shame on every one of you who have invited them into this building. How does it feel for you to poison the American public and what you've been perpetuating? Hate, racism, white supremacy, and the genocide that is being carried out on the Palestinian people.
And how does it feel to stand for Khamas? Does that feel good to you? Do you feel good standing in solidarity with a terrorist group that has
I feel very good standing in solidarity with Palestinian people who have been murdered by Israel, by U.S. paid tax dollars and bonds, and you have continued to spew hate.
What's happening is we're just watching this clip on Twitter of a Code Pink activist going up to Ben Shapiro and asking him, like, how does it feel to spew propaganda and lies on behalf of the Zionist regime and cheer Palestinian babies getting killed? And his literal response is, but Hamas. Like, actually, literally. But Hamas. How does it feel to stand for Hamas? Oh my gosh. It's really unreal. It's really unreal. How do you feel? How do you feel? How does it feel to stand for Hamas? That's literally his answer to that's all of their answer to everything. But Hamas. Hamas, 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 but Hamas. Oh my gosh. No, it's so next level. It also shows you what a psychopath he is, because what he's doing there is he's saying that all Palestinians are Hamas. That all Palestinians are Hamas. Think about how psychotic that is. Every single Palestinian, the babies, the infants on incubators, the children, the little boys and girls, the disabled people in wheelchairs, the grandmothers, they're all Hamas. They're all Hamas. Absolutely psychotic. Yeah, Hind Rajab was Hamas. Absolutely psychotic. You guys, we can't let them normalize it. They have tried to normalize what has happened in Gaza. Normalize genocide. We can't allow them to normalize it. Which someone remind me in a few minutes, speaking of normalization, that I want to mention what happened to that flight attendant who was wearing the pro-Palestine flag. Somebody remind me of that in a few minutes. I cannot stand that Zionist propagandist Emily Schrader. Oh, absolutely. She is the worst. I wish I could debate her, but Piers, but do you condemn Khamas has not invited me on his show yet. I hope he invites me on his show soon and allows me to debate Emily Schrader, who is an American settler who parked her ass in Palestine and then pretends to be indigenous to the land. AK, are you on Twitch too? Some of us could subprime. I am on Twitch. Yes. I just started streaming on Twitch today, like through the same platform. Like it's streaming on Twitch and YouTube, but I'm doing it through a third-party platform because I don't understand how to use Twitch. Like I'm very, like, it's very boomer. I don't understand how to use OBS. And you have to like use OBS or a second camera in order to use Twitch. And I was not even fucking with that because it was like OBS was overwhelming me. I need something simple. And by the way, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate everybody who sends super chats, which I think you can only do through YouTube. And you can also become a member through YouTube. My wonderful member Saeed just gifted like a ton of memberships, so you can just get one through one of the ones he gifted. And you can also become a member on my Ko-Fi, which is like basically the same thing as Patreon, which is here on my little screen. Or you can donate to my Venmo and support my work that way, because you guys are the reason why I'm able to do what I do, and your support is extremely appreciated and important so that I can tell the truth and talk about these things openly with you guys and not have to worry about being hired by someone. I can work for myself. So thank you very much, everybody who sent super chats and became members and donated to my Venmo or became members on Ko-Fi. I love you all. Ben Shapiro is actually more monstrous than I ever thought. Like, I used to think, like, before October 7th, when I really didn't understand, and like, honestly, I really did not understand. I was like super ignorant. Many of you who have been with me now for a while, you know, like my story and how I came about this and how I was very ignorant when it came to what was happening in Israel and Palestine and the occupation and the history of the Palestinian people. So like before October 7th and before my kind of like awakening, I knew that Ben Shapiro was like a psychotic right-winger, but I thought that like he was probably a good person in his personal life. Like I always got the sense that like, I'm sure he loves his family. He seems to be like genuinely religious and probably isn't that bad of a person. Then once I learned about Gaza and started seeing the things he said about Gaza, I'm like, oh wait, no. He's not just like a psycho right-winger who's probably a good person to his own family. He's a psycho. He's a sociopath. Because you can't talk about Palestinians like they're animals like that and cheer on psychotic settlers that are regularly abusing and killing Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and talking about them like they're vermin and then be a good person. Like, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. FYI, Akon wrote... or AK, I'm sorry. FYI, people in chat need to turn on gifted subs from YouTube settings in the desktop for next time. It's random. I don't know what that means. Oh, you mean if somebody gifts you a subscription, you have to actually like turn it on in your settings? Oh, man. I don't know what I would do without you guys. You guys are like actually, okay, thanks, AK. Everybody get that? I hope that everybody in chat saw that. AK saying that if you want to get one of the free gifted subscriptions that Saeed gave, you have to turn on gifted subs in your YouTube settings in your desktop. I did not know that. You guys are always helping me out. Saeed, No way. I know. But it's not that I ever really thought he was a good person. I obviously always thought he was a bad person because, like, he's a psychotic right-wing zealot. But I used to think, like, oh, I'm sure, he's like, loves his family and probably cares about his community. He at least, I guess what I'm trying to say is he at least seems somewhat sincere to me, as opposed to like a lot of the other right-wing grifters are fully in it for the grift. Like all the right-wingers that I just talked about earlier that pretend to be pro-free speech, people like Jordan Peterson, Rafe Dubin, Barry Weiss, like all of those grifters are fully in it for the grift. What's his name? The guy who always wears like the gun holster to look tough, and he always breathes like this. What is his name? The right winger. I forget his name. I'm forgetting his name. He's like the right winger that is like a psycho. Crowder. Thank you, Wandering Star. That's his name, Steven Crowder. All of those grifters are fully in it for the grift. They're fully in it for the money. They're basically all like failed writers and failed people that tried to get into Hollywood and didn't make it. And so they're taking their anger out on the rest of us. And like, no, but for real though, like the guy who started Breitbart, Andrew Klavan, pretty much the entire staff at the Daily Wire, like Michael Knowles, what's his name? The one who did Matt, what is his name? Matt, the fascist guy at the Daily Wire. Matt Walsh. All of those people, they were all like failed comedians and failed wannabe writers in Hollywood, including Ben Shapiro. And then they decided they were going to like enact their revenge on the American people by starting all these right-wing companies. And the thing that people need to understand about right-wing companies is that they have endless money. There is no money on the left. And the reason for that is very simple, because the left, and I'm speaking broadly now, but like the left, they advocate generally for taxation on the rich. A lot of leftists are socialists, so they advocate for abolishing certain private industries. Obviously, corporations and billionaires are not going to invest in leftist media and in like such liberal media when they're advocating for things that would tax them and take their money. That's why you don't see it. That's why the only liberal media that you see is liberal media that won't criticize capitalism. You'll never see, the only liberal media that you'll see are media outlets that will never get too close to the edge of criticizing capitalism. That's why actual leftists, socialists, people who make content about that kind of stuff, anybody who is on the left, even broadly, will never get that kind of funding because it goes against the interests of the elite class. Like by virtue of what the left is saying, by virtue of tax the rich, give everybody housing, abolish billionaires, like all of that kind of stuff, tax corporations, all of that stuff goes against everything that liberals and the right wing believes in. So of course they're not going to get the funding. But if you're on the right, you will have an endless stream of funding, an endless stream. That's how the Daily Wire is propped up. It's how Steven Crowder is propped up. It's how Rafe Dubin is propped up. It's how they're all propped up by dark, what is his name? Charlie Kirk. No one fucking listens to Charlie Kirk, but he is propped up by dark money right-wing billionaires. And they're all Zionists, so they get tons of money from Zionists and from the Israeli lobby. So the point that I was trying to make is that I think that Ben Shapiro is sincere in his psychotic right-wing Zionism. I think most of them are just grifters. Like, I don't think Charlie Kirk's heart's really in Zionism, but it pays well to shill for Israel. It pays well to be a right-wing hack. But his heart's not in it. And it's the same thing with a lot of the other right-wingers. I think Ben Shapiro is one of the only ones that, like, he's actually sincere in his psychotic sociopathy and Zionism. Does that make sense, everyone? I hope that made sense. That was a little bit of a rant, but I hope it made sense. Yeah, for real, collage. I just think, too, that a lot of them, they don't actually really care. They just want a right-wing fascist agenda. I do think it's interesting, though, that Ben Shapiro cries constantly if anybody criticizes his stances on the Israeli regime. But he never criticizes them, you'll notice. He won't criticize Netanyahu. He won't criticize anything Israel does. But he'll go vicious every single day against his own fellow citizens in America. That's a little sus. Why? Because I remember him crying because people were saying that, like, he put Israel first. Like, people were saying Ben Israel first, and he was like crying about it and calling them anti-Semitic and all the rest. But then it's like, well, you know what's funny is Ben Shapiro has no problem ripping apart Democrats, the Democratic president, his fellow Democratic citizens, liberals, but he won't criticize Netanyahu. He won't criticize anybody in the Israeli regime. He won't criticize the country. But his entire show, for the most part, is just a long rant about how much he hates his fellow citizens. That's literally what it is. His whole show is just talking about how he hates American Democrats, American liberals, his fellow citizens, and anybody in the American government that doesn't agree with him. So, yeah, I really, you can spare me your crocodile tears, Ben, about how everything I don't like is anti-Semitic when people rightly criticize you for not opposing genocide, doing propaganda for this psychotic regime, and never criticizing them when you have no problem at all ripping apart on a daily basis. It's how you make your living, by tearing down your own country and your fellow citizens. Hating on fellow citizens started with Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, I did. It's too bad he's in hell now. He never rails on the billionaire class. Of course not. Of course not. Those are his bosses. Those are his bosses. He could never criticize the billionaire class because he believes in it. He wants to be one. And those are the people that write his checks and invest in his company. Sam Cedar still calls him Ben the Pope of the Jews. I know, that's really funny. Sam Cedar is really funny. But that, I love that he calls him that because he really acts like he is in charge of everything Jewish people should think. He really does. He acts like he's in charge. Like, he criticizes anti-Zionist Jews and calls them not real Jews or as a Jews. Bernie Sanders is about as Jewish as a ham sandwich. Okay. But I love how they want it both ways, though, for their own purposes. When they want to criticize Jewish people who are anti-Zionist or criticize Bernie Sanders, they say, it doesn't matter. You're as Jewish as a ham sandwich. But then when it comes to wanting to claim indigeneity to a land they're not from, then all of a sudden it's ethnic. Then all of a sudden it's ethnic. Then all of a sudden it's, you can't say anything. This is our land. We're indigenous to it. Make up your mind. Pick a lane. Bro, I need more coffee. I definitely need more coffee. You guys, his show is really falling. He's just sitting around talking about Barbie. Yeah. And he won't, yeah, of course, he won't debate Norman Finkelstein. Norm Finkelstein has been asking to debate him for a while, but he won't debate him. Norman Finkelstein, who is Jewish, but not according to Ben Shapiro, because, you know, you got to go through Ben Shapiro if you want to get your card. Yes, Saeed. Yeah, that's why they won't allow DNA tests. Would love to write a book called Great Idiots of History. Rachel Corrie would make the list. It's just another example of Ben Shapiro throwing his own fellow citizens under the bus and trashing them in defense of the Israeli regime. Because Rachel Corrie was an American citizen who was brutally murdered by the IOF when they ran over her with a bulldozer because she was trying to get them to stop tearing down and stealing Palestinian houses in Rafah. I'm pretty sure it was Rafah. And they ran over her. And there was no consequences for it. None. No consequences. There was no consequences in the Israeli regime, of course, because they have like a fake legal system and nothing they do ever gets punished. But no one got held accountable here either. In fact, this is what they do. She was murdered for protecting a doctor's house from a bulldozer. After murdering her and stealing her eyes, the Israelis had a pancake party to use her death for fun and photos. That is the society that they're upholding. That's the society that Israel is upholding. It really is next level. But there's never any consequences. There's never any consequences for anything the Israeli regime does, even if they kill an American citizen, like Rachel Corrie or like Shireen Abu Akleh, who was also an American citizen. Mr. Bonelli. Yeah, it actually is really embarrassing that Ben Shapiro is afraid to debate Norm Finkelstein and won't debate him. But Destiny did. Like, Destiny, I think, was like me. He only like really learned about the Israel-Palestine thing like 5 minutes ago. And he's out there doing all those debates because he has like that white man confidence. But Ben Shapiro, who's been a Zionist his whole life, won't debate Norm Finkelstein because he knows that Norm Finkelstein would crush him. And he knows that Norm Finkelstein would not put up with the whole, oh, well, you're not actually really Jewish because you don't agree with me routine. He's too afraid to debate him. Ben Shapiro is only comfortable debating like blue-haired college students in their first year. They never actually are willing to debate anybody who could stand toe-to-toe with them. They always go after like younger people that aren't experienced in debating and that also don't have their own mic, if you'll notice. Ben Shapiro never debates anybody where it's equal time on a mic. He only debates people where he is in the authoritative position and can cut them off, and he has the mic. Also, that Genucell that Ben Shapiro is always promoting does not work. Okay?
Poison the American public.
Say it, but I'm going to say it because men get to be all, you know, cis men get to be sexist all the time. against women and women identifying people and AFAB people, but no one ever points out when a guy looks like shit. Like if a woman looks like shit, they'll be like, oh my gosh, like she looks like shit. She's gained weight. She's aging so bad. Like, how come no one ever talks about the fact that Ben Shapiro looks like shit? Like, and he promotes Genucel on his channel. Like he has like a partnership with them. He gets paid to promote their products. He's always like, Genucel is great. I think it's Genucel. I think it is. I think that's the company. I'm not 100% sure, but he'll be like, Genucel is great. Man, my wife uses Genucel. Man, my mom uses Genucel. Man, you should use it too. It's one of our earliest sponsors. Are they though? Well, then I'll definitely never buy Genucel, because for somebody who takes care of themselves and he's healthy and all that, as he says he does, he's looking a little rough. He's only like, what, 40? He looks a little rough.
Good, standing in solidarity with a terrorist group that has murdered 1,200.
I feel very good.
Khamas. I like how he goes, do you feel good about standing for a terrorist group that has murdered 1,200 civilians? How about the terrorist regime that has murdered 186,000 people? How about that? Can you make a video on Ben? Well, Nar, I need you to be more specific, because I'm kind of doing a video on him right now. Like we're talking about Ben right now. I can do another video on him if you want, but I need to know what specifically regarding him you want. I just like how implicit in their statements. I actually have made videos on Ben Shapiro before. I just like how implicit in their statements when he says, you stand for Khamas because they killed 1,200 people, which they count the IOF soldiers in that number, and they shouldn't. Because if you're not going to count Khamas in the number of Palestinians murdered, then we're not counting IOF soldiers. But then also, what he's saying is Palestinian lives don't matter. That's what he's saying. Because when he says, you're standing for Khamas because they killed 1,200 Israelis, but he doesn't care that the IOF terrorist regime, the occupying force against a besieged, armless civilian population, he doesn't care that 186,000 at least have been murdered. So what he's saying is Palestinian lives don't matter. That's what everybody is saying. We already know that they employed the Hannibal Directive on October 7th. I did a video on that a couple days ago. We already know that. On top of that, we already know by the way that this whole thing has been treated, that the West in general and people like Ben Shapiro think that Palestinians' lives do not matter, because we constantly want to talk about, oh, October 7th, October 7th, October 7th. What about every day since October 7th? What about every day since October 7th? How about the occupied West Bank? Hamas aren't there, but they're terrorizing Palestinians in the occupied West Bank every single day. Every day. They think we don't have social media. They think we don't have Telegram, that we don't see. We see. We see. They think that they can put this back in this toothpaste back in the tube. I think that's what they really don't get. There's no going back from everything that people have seen, what they've done to the Palestinians. Ben Shapiro wants your sons and daughters to go. Oh, that was Rachel Corrie as a kid. It's so sad. Oh my gosh, do you guys remember this cringe? Do you guys remember this cringe? If you make a song about Palestine, I'm sure it will trend. I actually have written a song about Palestine, Nar, but I haven't been able to record it yet because I need a producer. So if someone's a producer in chat, hit me up. Hit me up. If you're a producer, if you're a music producer in chat, hit me up. Because I have written that song. I've written actually a few songs, but I don't have the recording equipment or the production equipment in order to be able to record it the way that I'd want to. The thing that was so disgusting about this, kind of going to what I was saying earlier, what I was saying earlier was how disgusting it is that they weaponized the Holocaust this way. That they took him on this propaganda tour in front of Auschwitz in order to try to clean up his image after the statements that he made. And Elon Musk like backed down like immediately. He's like, yes, yes, yes. Through Parliament. Oh yeah, they're all over. It's just crazy. It really is. Based. This guy's a demon. Brian Mast. Total demon. LOL. But seriously though, Hurt Copain is absolutely right about Michael Rapist Port. That like they literally can't stop, won't stop culture vulturing. Like they can't because there is no Israeli culture. So they just steal Arab culture and Palestinian culture. It's quite something. It's quite something. Yes, thank you, Narnar. I'm telling you, if there's got to be a music producer in here somewhere, hit me up. Hit me up. Help me finish my Palestine song. Oh, it's so amazing. We have to finish the job. The narcissism. Moral of the story is Ben Shapiro's a psycho, and he's supporting these war crimes. Channel 12 post 70% of Israelis think Netanyahu must resign now or once the war is over. What kind of a stupid question is that? Because he's going to keep it going because he doesn't want to get out of office. So he's going to keep it going. Okay, so I'm going to throw this out there again. I need a producer who can work with me on a song that I wrote about Palestine. Somebody who knows how to produce for the cause. It would be very cool to produce a song that I wrote for Gaza, and then any proceeds that it gets from views or from streams would be able to go to Gaza. That would be very cool. So hit me up. Hit me up. DM me on Twitter. Comment. He doesn't want to leave office. Thank you for the super chat, Absalom. I'm not sure what you're referring to here, but they all censor. They all do. All of them censor. TikTok is the worst. Nobody's been able to answer what happens after the war. Well, it's not a war, it's a genocide. And also, they don't want to answer it because they don't want to stop occupying it. That's the real answer. They don't want to stop occupying the Palestinians. And they also want to take the rest of their land. They want to take what's left of it. They want to push all of them out and take the rest of their land. And if you actually listen to what the Israeli regime is saying, they will say that. The settlers will say it. The war cabinet will say it. Ben-Gvir will say it. Smotrich will say it. Jared Kushner will say it. They actually are very clear about what they want to do. They want to push the Palestinians into Jordan and into the Sinai Peninsula, steal the rest of their land, and build beachfront properties on it for tourists and other rich Zionists. The only reason why the West isn't saying that is because they know how bad it sounds. So liberals and the West, they just pretend that this two-state solution is a thing. They'll go, oh, we need to do a two-state solution, but they know that that's bullshit. Yeah, exactly, Wesley. That's exactly what they want. Yeah, he attended a seminar where they're trying to sell beachfront properties. There have been multiple times that happened. It happened in New Jersey. It happened in LA. And then all the media lied about the protests. And we're like trying to change the narrative and claim that people were just attacking people at a synagogue without mentioning the reason why the protesters were there, which was to protest the illegal sale of Palestinian land. Yeah, I've learned through this whole thing that like the whole two-state solution thing was always a lie. It was always just like a talking point to shut up people in the West and make people in the West feel better. Like, oh, that's cool. Equal. They'll both get a state. Wash our hands of it. They never meant it. They've never meant it. Separate but equal, you might say. Right. But then they all still pretend to not know what apartheid is. Apartheid. If you're that moron, human herpy, Michael Rappaport, who's in the Zionist protection racket, because he would unironically like be canceled if he were not a Zionist, because he is a total creep. He's such a perv. He's such a predator. It's like out of control. Nash Boba. That's really funny. Mayor Bass apologizing. Yeah, they always take their side. They always take their side. He is a stalker, AK. He literally stalks me. Literally stalks me. Not only does he stalk me, he now stalks my husband. It's no wonder he loves Israel so much. That's where all the predators go. He like found my husband's Instagram and was like stalking it. It's just creepy. All I'm saying is if you are a woman or a fab person, don't be alone with him. That's all I'm saying. Like legitimately deranged. You guys are funny. Oh, you guys are funny. All right. Well, I love you guys and I wish I could stay a lot longer, but I gotta go. I asked you guys, YouTube members, what you wanted to talk about today, but you didn't give a specific topic. Talk about that, the PDF files who run to the occupied land for amnesty. Yes. That's a really good topic, AK. We do need to talk about the PDF files. Let me do a little bit more research on that and we can talk about it next time. Yeah. Yeah, Saeed, they like to pretend that everybody who doesn't agree with them who's Jewish is a self-hating Jew. Do you guys remember that clip that went viral a couple weeks ago on Twitter of that woman, that Zionist woman, having a meltdown because an anti-Zionist Jew was protesting in Union Square? Do you guys see that? Okay, we'll watch this last one and then I really got to run. But let's watch this. What? How do you search it? Karen yells at anti-Zionist Jew. Twitter's search function sucks. Was it this one?
You're not a Jew! How dare you!
When Zionism
You're not a Jew!
when
Just say that!
came in, they caused bloodshed. They caused limitless bloodshed.
How can you say that? You're Jewish! How can you shame your own?
Oh, yeah, it is. I'm honestly sad I wasn't there. I wish I could have been there. I live in New York City. I could have just gone right down there and fucking joined this drama. There are so many Jewish people like this man. A lot of pro-Palestinian, anti-Zionist Jews, a lot of them. I've been at pro-Palestinian marches where there was huge crowds of anti-Zionist Jews. But they like to pretend they don't exist because it's very inconvenient for their narrative. Very inconvenient for their narrative. I know, it's funny. They love to call everything an anti-Semitic trope. How is it not an anti-Semitic trope to call people self-hating Jews? Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, they really don't like acknowledging, though, the anti-Zionist like Torah Jews because as I said, it's very inconvenient for their narrative of saying that everybody agrees with them. Every Jewish person has to be a Zionist or else they're like a fake Jew or a self-hating Jew. And these people are Orthodox. These Jewish people are Orthodox and very like committed to free Palestine and anti-Israeli regime. And that's just very inconvenient for them, for propagandists and Zionists like Michael Rappaport, who like I don't even know. He is Jewish. Like, did he convert to Judaism, or is he like ethnically Ashkenazi, European Jew? I don't know. I would have never known that he was Jewish if it weren't for him not shutting the fuck up about it. I honestly, if I had to guess his ethnicity, I thought he was like a white trash, not to insult my Irish people, because I love Irish people, Irish Americans. That's what I thought he was. I thought he was like a white trash, South Boston, like Irish American.
Who is our Jew?
We're Jews! This is our people!
He was against Jews.
I like how she's like straight up white. Just straight up white.
We're all Jews here, all right?
The guy's like, calm down, lady. We're all Jews here. Are you? She just looks like a white Karen. Yeah. Also, he's like, calm down, lady. But like, I also love how she's whining and then accuses them of not really being Jewish. Like, you guys are they're such fucking hypocrites. They'll literally try to dehumanize other Jewish people, Orthodox anti-Zionist Jewish people, and then cry about how they're anti-Semitic as they're denying them their Judaism. It's quite something.
How are they saying that?
Because they believe in genocide. You don't want genocide. I don't want that. Because I'm Jewish. And the Talmud said it's not our country like that.
That is our country! How dare you say that about our own people!
Because I'm Jewish! Because I'm Jewish, I'm standing
Like a typical Karen, she tries to grab his phone.
Put yourself in this situation.
How can they say that? You're Jewish! They're just taking pictures!
How embarrassing that she brought her kid to this. Like, how embarrassing. You brought your kid to this and you're screaming like a lunatic in front of your child. Embarrassing. Some people should not be allowed to be parents. I know, that was great. The best reply from a Jewish person to a Zionist when they asked him about the Jews' homeland, and he replied, "You mean New York?" True. True.
Gaza. Kids are dying in Gaza. Kids are dying in Gaza.
That one Orthodox guy keeps saying, children are dying in Gaza. Children are dying in Gaza. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care that children are dying. This guy up here is like, hey,
This is not what Judaism stands for.
Shame, shame, Israel! Shame, shame, Israel!
I'm protecting her. Let me. Yeah. You guys, leave her alone.
No, we are.
the irony of this Zionist lunatic calling other people, okay, monsters. You're calling other people monsters as that guy waves around his fake passport. Please, please. Yeah, it's so embarrassing. That's what everybody, you know, never, first of all, never allow someone to silence your voice and your advocacy for human rights because they try to smear you with name calling, like saying that you're anti-Semitic. Never allow them to do that. That's how they try to shut down conversation. That's how they try to shut people down. And do always remember that there is a big difference between these monsters like her that are advocating for genocide and actual advocacy for human rights. And don't let anybody tell you, especially these lunatic Zionists, if you are Jewish, who gets to be Jewish and who doesn't. Like, don't let anybody do that. There are a lot, and if you're not that familiar with it, also don't let Zionist lunatics make you think a certain way about Jewish folks overall, because there are a lot of amazing, amazing anti-Zionist Jews. I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. There are a lot of Jewish people here. There are a lot of anti-Zionist Jewish people here. And some of them are the strongest voices, leading voices for the pro-Palestinian movement. So never allow them to make you dehumanize other people, because they do. I always, like, want to remind people of that they dehumanize people. Never allow them to make you lose your humanity. Because we don't, on our side, those of us who are pro-human, we don't judge people or decide whether or not somebody has worth, whether or not, based on whether or not they are Jewish, or whether or not they are Palestinian, or whether or not they are Black, or any other gender or race. Because we are humanists and we do not dehumanize that way. The way that somebody who is vile and disgusting like Zionists are, that can get you to be on their level, is to get you to dehumanize people the way that they do. Never allow them to take your humanity for other people from you. JD McCoy, I dated a Jewish dude, still think he's so hot. The irony is that the activity of these Zionist lunatics is just making Jews, including Israelis, less safe. I know. I've been saying that for months. That's what I've been saying that for months, including to the lunatic Zionists here in New York. Oh, I know, Nar. There are a lot of crazy Zionists here, but there are a lot of crazy Christian Zionists here too. But that is true. It's literally them making Jewish people unsafe. Like, when they say, they constantly conflate Jewish people with Zionism and the entity, the Israeli entity. Unironically anti-Semitic and unironically making every Jewish person less safe, because what they're saying is to be Jewish is to support genocide. That's what the Zionists are doing when they go out of their way to conflate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. They are making all Jews less safe, which is how you know they really don't give a shit about Jewish safety. If they really gave a shit about Jewish safety, they wouldn't be conflating Zionism with what it means to be Jewish. Did I just tokenize him? I'm old. I have no clue. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's really funny. It's really funny too, because like, no, you have to reject their bad faith smears. It's just really funny. Because now, like, all the bad faith lunatic Zionists, all they do is call their opponents anti-Semitic. Everything I don't like is anti-Semitic. And Hamas. I'm Hamas. You're Hamas. Everyone's Hamas. Which is actually kind of funny, because like, when somebody pointed out to me, and I hadn't even thought about it, when some lunatic Zionist was going after me, that like every person that I really loved and admired my whole life just happened to be Jewish people. Like, the comedians that I loved were all Jewish people. My favorite comedian when I was growing up and like was Roseanne, which is kind of sad to say because Roseanne is a psycho. So I don't follow her on Twitter. I try not to like look at anything she does because it's just too disappointing, you know? Like, we all have those people that have like a special place in our heart. I have like a special place in my heart for Roseanne because I grew up watching Roseanne when I was in a very, very dark depression, going through alcoholism and addiction. I would like wake up from my hangovers and I would just put Roseanne on and I would watch episode after episode after episode. And it was just so comforting to me and funny. And I always related to Roseanne because Roseanne was like, you know, the only show that was really on TV that talked about poor people and working class people and fat people. I loved, and what's funny, a lot of people who never watched Roseanne don't know this, but like, it's funny that she's like a psycho right-wing Zionist conspiracy theorist now, because when she had her show back in the 90s and late 80s, she was like super progressive and like ahead of her time. Like, it's wild. She was like, she would do shows about like America's colonization of the Native American land and like queer people, and talked about racism and anti-blackness. Like, she was very ahead of her time and talked about things on her show that like leftists didn't even start talking about until years later. And she was so funny. She was really funny. And I always felt like there weren't really that many funny women. So yeah, it's very unfortunate what happened to her. And it's crazy that she ended up becoming like a right-wing QAnon psychopath, and like a psychotic Zionist. So that's why I don't follow her on Twitter. I don't watch her. I don't watch anything she does, because I think like everybody who has that like childhood memory of somebody that you kind of hold in your heart and you want to remember a certain way. I like to remember Roseanne as like the Roseanne from the show that I loved, that I grew up watching. So I don't want to watch like anything she does now. And same with like everyone else that like I ever admired and looked up to was like Jewish people. Like Bernie Sanders, the only politician I ever loved, donated to, volunteered for, Jewish. Bob Dylan, my favorite artist, my favorite musician of all time, was the person I first started like writing music because of, was Bob Dylan. So it's just funny. It's just funny when people are like, oh my gosh, have you ever even like thought about this? It's like, okay, bro. And by the way, that I only thought of this because somebody made the joke about dating a Jewish person and tokenizing them. And I never even thought about how much like Jewish culture and Jewish American culture had influenced me until somebody pointed that out. Because ever since I started speaking up for Palestine, I obviously never got called anti-Semitic ever in my life before this, before the whole, I started speaking up for Palestine. But once you start speaking up for Palestine, people start calling you anti-Semitic. And I just never thought about all the influences in my life that were Jewish people until like this whole thing started. And then everybody's like, something, everything I don't like is anti-Semitic, and something, everything I don't like is Hamas. Khamas. We get old and our radical spirit dies. I know. It's disappointing. Oh, I always hated Amy Schumer. She's just not funny. She's just not funny. Yeah, like if you're gonna be as obnoxious as Amy Schumer is, who's also like a Nepo baby because her family is like rich and was already in politics and media, you need to actually have a good sense of humor. All she does is talk about her vag. And that's supposed to be the joke. Like, I just can't. Like, people like that, like Amy Schumer or Sarah Silverman, where like their whole comedy is like talking about their period and their vag and poop. Make it stop. And stealing jokes. Yeah, Amy Schumer is a huge joke stealer. Yeah, I never thought she was funny either. Where, you know what I realized though, is that that's also a product of the time we're living in. There are still a lot of funny people, but they're on TikTok. Like network television, Hollywood movies, they don't want really funny people because it's too like advertiser threatening. Everybody is so scared about being like offensive to advertisers. So everything is so watered down, because when you watch any comedy show, whether it's on Comedy Central or in a movie or on network television, it has to go through all these stages of approval. So if you have something funny, by the time it goes through its like 8th stage of approval, you've destroyed any of the jokes or like the funniness of it. Which is why I'm like, people are like, oh, people just aren't funny anymore. It's like, it's not that people aren't funny anymore. it's that most of the funny people who are unfiltered are like on social media. They're on X, they're on TikTok. There's actually a female comedian who I think is really funny. And she is on, in fact, I think she's Jewish. She's so funny. Her name is Kylie Brakeman. A lot of people don't know who she is because she's just like a local comedian. But she's really funny. And she's somebody who should be like a woman in comedy that people should, you know, pay attention to and actually like give. She should get jobs. Is she getting jobs? Like, I don't see mainstream media propping her up.
And that's why we've collaborated with the Coca-Cola knows that She Herstory was written by women girls, which is why now Diet Coke is called Emily. Bank of America believes that women, and that's why we've collaborated with the Smartless guys to put out a podcast in a frequency that only women can hear. If women were a car, Chevron would fuel the car where the women want to go. That's why today gasoline is pink. Kellogg's is proud to announce that Captain Crunch is a woman. Just today, though, we don't want to do that shit forever. Hello, we're Hillshire Farms, and for some reason, we're going with what if George Washington was a girl? Makes you think. We at Hilton believe that women deserve a break, which is why we fired all our female employees. Enjoy your day off, girl boss. Domino's loves mummies. That's why pizza in shape of bra today. Mountain Dew is a matriarchal paradise. That's why write the name of a woman who inspires you on the can, mail it to us, and then we'll put it on the Instagram. Welcome to Home Depot. We made a hammer that women can hold with their little hands. Uh-oh, Google had an idea. We're girl goal today.
She is very funny. She's very funny, but you don't see her getting propped up. I really like her. And then what would you call it? What would you call? Yeah, way too many musicians. Somebody brought musicians. Musicians are disgustingly silent on Palestine. They really are. We are not seeing nearly enough musicians talk about Gaza, talk about Palestine. It was like Macklemore came out with a song and like that was it. We are not seeing nearly enough musicians. It's gross. That's why you guys got to help me find a producer so I can release my Palestine song. No one else is going to do it. No one else is going to do it. No one else is doing it. Find me a producer. Send me your best producer, you guys. There is no way that there is not a producer somewhere in this chat that can help me bring this Palestine song to life. I know you're in there. Someone's got to speak about it. DJ Khaled, I know. You know what? I actually feel sorry for DJ Khaled's children because they're going to grow up with so much shame because he's been not only so silent, he only comes out and does social media to brag about how rich he is as his people are starving. I don't talk about DJ Khaled that often because I really don't want to speak generally, like be too critical of Palestinians, whether they're in the diaspora or not, because I'm obviously not Palestinian and I care about what Palestinians think and hearing from them. But I'm speaking just from a human level of like seeing his posts and seeing how he hasn't said anything about Gaza and then thinking about his kids. Like his kids are going to grow up and learn about their heritage and see how quiet he was. It's sad. Yeah, I do. I think it is valid to criticize him. I just don't really like to say that much, really, because I'm not Palestinian. And I think that Palestinians who have been speaking up about him should be the ones mostly talking about it. So I don't really talk about it. It doesn't mean I don't have an opinion, but I don't go out of my way to talk so much about it. Damn, Bam, if you're a producer, hit me up. Help me with my song. Help me with my song. Yeah, because the thing is that the system doesn't want actually funny people, okay? That's why Kylie Brakeman isn't more famous or doesn't have more, followers or whatever. Dan, you can DM me on Twitter, on X. It's the same handle. I'm also going to put my email, my work email, in my bio. Low Key has a song called Genocide Joe. Oh, somebody get me Low Key. Tell him to help me. Yeah, Sammy Obeid, I don't know how you say his last name. He's a comedian and he's also really funny. He was like a math teacher. But again, they don't want funny people, okay? They don't. That's why they propped up people like that really not funny guy. Oh, Dan, try. The reason why I say Twitter is because I've got way too many messages on Instagram and TikTok. I don't even look at them anymore. It's like overwhelming. It's like thousands. Maybe I can put my email right here and you can just email me. This is my work email. Tell me if you see it. It's I am Blakeley, which is my same handle everywhere, at gmail.com. Weird that it's telling me I'm typing from Twitch. No, but do you guys remember when they propped up that I forget her name. Her name was like Sarah something. And all she did was TikToks where she would lip sync Trump. What was her name? I don't remember, but she wasn't funny. And I'm not saying this to like hate, but like she wasn't funny. All she did was lip sync Trump. She had no original comedy. And the mainstream media lost it over her. They loved her. They had her they gave her a Netflix special. They had her on all the like news shows. I was like, this is amazing. Sarah Cooper, thank you. That was her name. Thanks, Dan Bam. It won't take that long. I just need somebody to help me produce the song basically because I am not a producer. So I'll write it. I sing it, but some people are Logic X pros.